What's up? And welcome to episode 2. I wanted to go over a couple things, really mainly one thing in particular, and that is how did it all happen? How does a 20-year-old kid end up in the ER with a stroke and then spend nearly the next month of his life in a coma? Well, I have an answer for you. And it took a few months to figure it out, believe it or not. So, strokes can occur for any number of reasons. There's a ton of different reasons as to, how it might happen for someone versus another person. Being so young, it was definitely sort of a head scratcher in my case, especially since I sort of checked out of every test that they had put me through. Obviously put me through, first and foremost, blood pressure. Was that an issue? No. Also would be rare for someone so young. Plaque buildup, again, no, and also rare for someone so young. I believe they tested me for renal failure. No. They tested me for all kinds of different blood abnormalities that could make me more susceptible to vascular clotting. That wasn't an issue. They even checked my heart. They scanned my heart from inside and from the outside to see if there was a hole. And what happens there is when we're forming in the womb, as our organs are forming, right, as the heart is forming, there's a gap. There's a small hole between the two upper chambers. And what happens then is after we're born, I think within the first few months, that hole is supposed to close off. Well, there's actually a surprising number of folks out there where that hole doesn't close up all the way. It's actually more common than you think. If you Google it, I might be off here, but I think it's 1 in 7 people have it. It's pretty common. And it's usually not really a huge problem. However, it can pose a threat to having a stroke. And the reason why is because your heart is pumping blood through your chambers, if a little clot forms and shoots up through that hole, it can find a way through your carotid arteries to find access into your brain, causing a stroke. Basically like two little freeways, just there you have it. That wasn't a problem. So, no hole in my heart, no blood issues, no blood pressure issues, going down the list, everything else that they put me through. No, nothing. Okay. So, it wasn't until a few months later, in pretty intense rehab, I'm seeing this brilliant neurologist, and he asked to see my brain scans. So, obviously, I gave him access to that. And what he did was he compared my CAT scan, my MRI scan, and I think I had multiple, mine versus a typical ischemic stroke, and checked to see if there were any differences between the two. And he goes, okay, Kevin, you told me that you used to skateboard a lot, right? Skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, these are things you used to do a lot of. Yeah. And he goes, did you ever hit your head? I'm like, yeah, like several times, and not wearing a helmet either, especially, being a product of the late 80s, mid 90s, early 2000s, wearing a helmet wasn't cool. So yes, I hit my head multiple times, even had definitely a really bad concussion where I don't remember about an hour and a half of my life. Woke up to a nurse scrubbing rocks out of my forehead. But I'd hit my head, a handful of times. I'd rung my bell. Yeah, sure, of course. And he goes, you had a dissection. And I'm like, what's a dissection? And he goes, okay. Picture this. All of our arteries throughout our entire body, they're layered like an onion. There's multiple layers, and, well, if you hit your head hard enough, one of those inner walls can tear open. And it's not entirely obvious because while it's torn open, it's not causing a bleed to the outer wall, right? Which would then affect the brain. What it does is it can stay torn and just be kind of like a little flap, and it'll just be chilling there, but still allowing blood to flow through there. But there's still a tear there. So then what happens is that flap then can flap shut, restricting blood flow. So now you have a situation where it acts like almost like a shut doggy door, but it's not able to open. So then what happens is this traffic jam of blood platelets starts stacking up, and then a clot can form. So he said, that's what I see here. And it made so much sense to me because I had actually hit my head pretty hard a few weeks prior to the TIA I had a few weeks prior to the big event. So it was finally sort of peace of mind because there was several months where I was kind of like, oh God, like what caused this thing? Is it going to happen again? And it was just validation for me in that situation that I was like, okay, I don't really have, I don't have to worry about this happening again. It was a huge fear. I thought it was really odd after my my stroke, and when I even got home, I kept thinking I was having one because my vision was messed up, and I couldn't feel my whole left side. I couldn't really move my whole left side, and there was just a fear of mine. It was almost like a phobia. And I don't like to throw the term PTSD around because I think people do that a little too often, but you have this like residing fear, this residual fear that is this going to happen again? I mean, this is kind of terrifying. Well, in my case, luckily, because those other things checked out, it was, very unlikely, and that it was caused as a result of several small head injuries, probably one main one that knocked that inner wall loose and caused my stroke. So that is how mine happened. And anyway, so I hope this helps in any way. I do still practice blood health. I keep my blood slick as possible. I take natural supplements to keep my blood moving clean. I stay hydrated, and I work out a lot to keep my blood flowing. And I do everything in my power to keep it slick and not sticky. So that's how my stroke happened, and that concludes episode 2. Hope this helps. Have a great day.